Good morning. I'm Mike Helms. I'm a senior writer at Sniper Country, the one-stop trusted resource for firearms enthusiasts in America. Our mission is to inform America's firearms owners with honest, impartial content across firearms reviews, accessories, and other related topics. And one of the topics we get asked about the most is concealed carry insurance, and I am really delighted to be joining Gary Eastridge from CCW Safe, one of the leading providers of concealed carry insurance. Gary, thanks for coming out. And perhaps you could give our readers a little bit of a background on yourself and just kind of tell me precisely what concealed carry or self-defense insurance is all about.
You bet. And thanks for having me on. First of all, let me clarify one thing. We're not insurance. That's a kind of a misnomer in the industry. A
Sure.
couple of companies are set up as insurance, but we're a legal service membership, similar to a police union.
Sure.
We were founded by former law enforcement officers, Stan Campbell, Mike Darter, and Kyle Sweet, all former officers here in Oklahoma, in the metro Oklahoma City area. I personally retired after 22 years with the Oklahoma City Police Department, retired out of the Homicide Unit. Then did a year over in Serbia working homicides in Kosovo. Came back and became the Chief Investigator for the District Attorney's Office. Part of my duties there was reviewing all officer involved significant uses of force that resulted in great bodily injury or death. So I have a lot of experience in that realm, which dovetailed me into this job. Mike Darter, our CEO, was involved in a police shooting back in 1997, and I was one of the investigators on it. So after the membership had grown to a point that they needed a critical response coordinator, Mike was kind enough to offer me a job.
So you said that CCW Safe is actually not insurance. Can you tell me a little bit more about what it actually is?
Sure. And there's, if you research, and we encourage all of our potential members to research all the competitors. There's only 6 or 7 in this industry. Some are set up as insurance, but there are some insurance regulations that make that not the best way to structure. Part of it is most states' insurance regulations prevent companies from insuring for an intentional or a criminal act. Well, self-defense is an intentional act, and it is a defense to what would otherwise be a crime. So the ultimate decision on whether or not it's a crime or self-defense is ultimately determined many times by the courts. So our general counsel helped. He has quite a bit of experience in the legal field. He's a civil attorney practicing here in Oklahoma City. He set up what is known as a captive insurance. A captive insurance protects us, being CCW Safe, against the loss of covering the member. So in effect, we have a policy that covers us, but our members receive their benefit as a member benefit. Just like the whole time I was on with Oklahoma City Police Department, I still am a FOP member. FOP is the Fraternal Order of Police. They're not really a union, but they function similar to a union. They bargain for work conditions, they bargain for pay raises, and they provide legal protection for officers who are involved in an incident in the line of duty.
Fantastic. And can you tell me a little bit about how CCW Safe actually came to be founded? Was there something that happened, or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really a fascinating story. And if any of your listeners or readers wish to sign on to our website, you can get our newsletters, which are not marketing oriented. But one we recently released was Mike Darter's story, our CEO. He was involved in the double police shooting back in 1997 that I helped work on. He was cleared criminally very quick, but was subsequently sued. The FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, paid all of his legal fees to defend the lawsuit, somewhere over $100,000 in legal costs, and resulting in a summary judgment for Mike that he was not at fault and was cleared. So when Mike transitioned into the private sector, he wanted the same type coverage that he received with the FOP, and he used that with Stan Campbell and Kyle Sweet to craft the terms of service for CCW Safe. We were founded in 2011, so this is our 10th year of business. We're growing leaps and bounds, and it's been a great thing to be a part of.
Fantastic. And you mentioned something interesting there about criminal and civil. Can you talk a bit about the differences between those and how CCW Safe can help?
Absolutely. And this is what a lot of people do not understand. A lot of concealed carriers do not understand. If you are involved in a self-defense incident, whether there's shots fired, whether there's a death, whether there's an injury, there will be a criminal investigation.
Yeah.
One of the things as a concealed carrier, so many people just think, well, I have the right to carry, so I will be right if I use my weapon in self-defense. Well, that legal investigation, that criminal investigation, is going to require you to come in and make statements, give your version of events, and we approach it from the same way we did as a law enforcement officer. Once you've been through a traumatic incident, such as a significant self-defense use of force, you'll understand the gravity. And as an officer, when I was called in, I had my FOP representative. As a private carrier, you're not going to be extended that opportunity unless you request it. So one of the things we do from the criminal aspect is we hire the legal representation for the members. Whether if the incident is 100% justifiable and all you're going to do is do one interview, we recommend you have an attorney with you when you're doing so.
Sure.
Once that's concluded, there's a couple different ways it can be concluded. The law enforcement usually will take it to a prosecuting authority, and they'll say no charges will be filed because this is a justified use of force, or they may file charges. Then you have the whole criminal process in front of you. We're still the only company in the industry that has defended a member charged with murder from incident through trial. So we've been there. We know what it requires, both financially, logistically, and the personal issues involved. Well, then if you're cleared or you're successful in your criminal phase, as we see with every police shooting around the country, what can happen is a lawsuit will be filed. And then that process starts all over again on the civil realm. In the civil realm, they're not going to incarcerate you, but they're going to seek damages. So we hire all of our plans cover 100% of criminal, civil, and administrative defense costs. Then we have optional civil damage coverage that can be added to a plan. But it can be a very lengthy process. It can be a 2+ year process if you're involved in an incident.
Wow, sounds like a lengthy and potentially expensive process.
Very expensive. The case that I referenced, defending our member, we spent a little over $400,000 defending him. And at that time, the membership, I think, was $129, and that was the only bill he paid. Members don't think about, everybody sees these incidents from a different perspective. And if law enforcement doesn't see it from your perspective and decides to take it to the district attorney, well, I shouldn't say that, they always take it to the district attorney, but if the district attorney doesn't see it from your perspective and decides, I'm going to let a jury determine this, it gets very expensive very quick.
And in that particular case that you were talking about, can you talk a little bit about some of those expenses? $400,000, was that just legal fees or?
No, that's again, the average person has no idea. If
Sure.
you're arrested, you have to post bond. If, depending on the case, it could be anywhere from an own recognizance. That might happen where there was no one injured. But if somebody's injured, you're probably going to have to post a bond. And assault bonds run anywhere from a couple thousand to we had a member recently that's bond was 50,000 on a where he displayed his weapon in a defensive incident. In the case of Steve Maddox, no bond. They held him without bond, so we had to pay the attorneys to petition the court to set a bond. Well, the bond was set at $500,000. If you don't have $500,000 sitting in the bank, you get to sit in jail unless you go through a bondsman. Bondsmen traditionally charge 10%. There's some variances around the country. The standard bond fee is 10%, which means you're going to have to come up with $50,000 just to get out of jail. And that money is gone forever. That's an expense that's not recoverable.
Sure.
In Steve Maddox's case, we found that when we hire good attorneys, we try to hire the best in any jurisdiction. They almost always have a friendly bondsman. And in that case, we negotiated a lesser premium, but we still paid $37,500 to get him out of jail. That's just so he can assist with his own defense.
Wow. And that's just money that's gone.
That money's gone. Then attorney's fee. This particular case, like I said, was a death case. And there was 150,000 right off the top to lock in the attorneys to represent Steve.
Sure.
Then we flew, the company flew myself and Don West to Raleigh, North Carolina. This occurred in a small town outside of Raleigh named Wilson, North Carolina. And they flew us out there 2 or 3 times to meet with the member and kind of help prepare for trial and that sort of thing. Just every day at court, you have court fees. We actually, our general counsel, as I said earlier, is a civil attorney. So he has a program that they subscribe to that's a trial administrator. It just helps the logistical process during a trial. We paid a girl full time to go there for the whole 2-week trial to help coordinate evidence displays and that sort of thing, which coming out of the district attorney's office myself, I know how important those things were. And I felt a little bit sorry for the prosecutor in this case because he struggled to present his evidence and ours was like a well-oiled machine. But bond is a big one. Private investigators. A lot of companies don't cover private investigators as a defense cost. We paid over $60,000 to private investigators in that case. Expert witnesses. A lot of the companies don't cover, limit the amount they cover, or make you pay extra for expert witnesses. We paid a little over $25,000, but that combined $85,000 is probably the reason Steve Maddox is free today. The private investigator was able to look at the evidence and realize that law enforcement, cops are all human. We make mistakes. They made an assumption that the evidence said one thing. Our private investigator was able to show that specifically on video evidence, that the timestamp was from two different DVR systems, resulting in an inaccurate assessment of that evidence. Then the medical examiner had made some mistakes on bullet pass. This was critical. It eliminated what Steve was saying, the way the medical examiner had ruled it. We paid a forensic pathologist to review the case and meet with the state pathologist, and was able to show the pathologist she had made some mistakes, which she amended, which fell into line with what Steve had said had occurred. So if you're facing a defense limit from the start, you then are kind of put in the position of having to budget your defense. You know, do I get out of jail, or do I apply that towards my defense attorney? With ours, defense costs are unlimited, so it doesn't impact it. Our bond coverage is the highest in the industry, but it has no impact on the defense coverage.
And Gary, something consistent I'm hearing in what you're saying is that your background in law enforcement, and it sounds like many, if not most of the people at CCW Safe have a background in law enforcement. It sounds like that's really important, because you're bringing that real life experience to the table when a situation comes up and when a good defense is needed.
We absolutely believe that. First of all, most of us have been in critical incidents. I've personally been involved in a shooting. My brother's, he is a contractor with our critical response team. He's been involved in 2 shootings. We understand the court process, not only as an officer, but like I said, I work for a prosecuting authority. So I can tell you that, you know, if you're charged, you're looking at an 18-month to 2-year process ahead of you.
Interesting.
Then we also, law enforcement is big on peer support. The critical response team that I manage handles that peer support for our members. So if you're a member and you're involved in a critical incident, and by critical I mean where somebody received a significant injury or has died, they actually fly me or one of the other team members to you to help with your immediate needs.
Sure.
In Steve Maddox's case, his employer, as soon as they found out, fired him. They gave him a 1-month severance package. My predecessor actually met with his employer and negotiated a 1-year severance package, to where Steve had very little economic impact. He was able to find another job in the meantime, and move on. But we're the only company in the industry that actually has a physical response team that comes to our members if the incident warrants.
That's fantastic. And, you know, as a former law enforcement officer, I mean, do you have faith that the judicial process is going to protect Americans who lawfully use their firearms for self-defense?
I have worked in the system a long time. The system is probably, I've worked in other systems when I was worked under the United Nations in Kosovo. Our system is much better than theirs. Is the system flawed? Very much so. Do I have faith in it? I have a high hope that that justice will be served. But I have seen a tremendous amount of mistakes made. Steve Maddox's case, for example, this is a case that, because of simple, and I don't believe there was anything malicious on law enforcement's behalf, but because of simple misunderstandings of the evidence, it painted a picture to them that Steve had committed a crime, and his only punishment, they had the choice of finding him not guilty or sending him to prison for life without parole. That was it. So that's not something I want to budget and try to save money on my defense to have them roll that dice with the justice system and hope that they get it right.
Can you tell me a little bit about the membership services that CCW Safe offers?
Sure. We have, as far as our plan structure, we have two basic plans. One of them is discounted for law enforcement military. It's our way of thanking those that have served. That's the protector plan. And then we have three options. Spouse edition, spouse and minor children are covered in the home at no extra. If a spouse has a permit, we have a option to add the spouse to have the same coverage as the member. Then we have a maximum $1 million bond coverage, which means we'll pay the fees on bonds set up to $1 million. And then we have a $1 million civil liability protection. It just covers you in case you get a damage award. As far as our services, we send out a digital membership card as soon as you join, then you receive a contact card later down the road. Unless you opt out, you are signed up for our newsletters. And like I said earlier, I highly encourage your listeners to sign up for the newsletter, and they don't even have to sign up for the newsletter. I know a lot of people are worried about getting spammed. There's a couple of companies in the industry that send a lot of emails. We send out 2 newsletters a week. They're usually case studies, case reviews, carry tips, training tips, and that sort of thing. We're very big advocates of ongoing continuing education as a concealed carrier.
Fantastic.
So,
and how many members does CCW Safe have?
Somewhere around 40,000. It fluctuates daily. It's been growing since I've been with the company almost 4 years. It'll be a month in 4 years.
Fantastic.
Somewhere around 40,000.
And does CCW Safe operate in all 50 states?
No, that's we did when I started, but as we've seen in this industry, excuse me a second. As we've seen in this industry, there's been an unprecedented political assault on guns in general, the Second Amendment specifically. And even though we're not necessarily a Second Amendment company, our services are enjoyed by those who do believe and support the Second Amendment. What we've seen is a couple states have taken action against some of our competitors, New York specifically. That's part of the reason Carry Guard no longer exists, is their ongoing protracted battle with the state of New York. Right now, we cover law enforcement only in the state of New York. In the state of New Jersey, we offer no coverage. The governor there signed a broad ban, just banning any kind of self-defense coverage. In the state of Washington, we've just finished up over a year negotiation with them. They have ruled that even though we offer no policy and never have, that we are in effect selling insurance. The conditions they wanted us to implement to offer our services there were not agreeable, so we no longer offer any coverage in Washington. But the other 47 states, if we cover you anywhere, any permit you have is honored with a firearm. If you are in a location where you cannot legally carry your firearm, we cover you with any other legal weapon of opportunity, which is just anything that's in and of itself not illegal. Hang on just a second. I apologize. We get that on silent now.
No problem.
We just moved into a remote office, and my office mate is bringing some things in. But anyway, if you have a permit in your resident state and then have non-resident permits to other states, we cover you anywhere that you are legal to carry.
Okay.
Hang on just a second. I apologize.
Nope, take your time.
All right. So we even have some people in states that are very hard to get permits that will get get one of the non-resident permits that are available online. Then you are able to be covered anywhere any of those permits are offered. We also have a couple non-permit plans. We have a constitutional carry plan for those living in states that allow permitless carry. I always recommend that members go ahead and get a non-resident permit, because then you're eligible for a permit plan, which is a little lower in cost, but it gives you a lot broader coverage. And then we have a home defense plan that only covers you within your home, your primary residence.
Fantastic. Is there anything else about CCW Safe that our viewers and readers that you think they should know about?
Well, I think you touched on it earlier with experience. I think we have the most comprehensive coverage for the money. There are a couple plans available from competitors that are slightly less, but when you look at what they don't cover, usually their lower price plans only cover you in your home state. If you want multi-state coverage, you have to pay extra for it. That's included with our basic plans. I think we have the most comprehensive coverage at the best price point. And then there's no one that touches us with experience.
Fantastic. And Gary, I think you're a bit of a Smith and Wesson collector, and I think you have a few Smith and Wessons. What's your favorite Smith and Wesson?
Oh, I hate. I don't know that I'm a collector as much as I'm an accumulator. My current fascination is pre-war in-frame Smith and Wessons, but I like any old, and by old, I mean pre-1980, especially when you get into the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I started law enforcement in the revolver days. I was issued a Smith & Wesson revolver out of the academy. I carried my own Smith & Wesson. The only shooting I've been involved in, I was using my Smith & Wesson Model 19, which my son now has. I've passed it on. I've only given up 2 out of my collection, and both of them went to him for sentimental reasons.
Oh, that's fantastic. And one last question. Would you be willing to share a little bit about what your daily carry rig is?
My daily carry rig is a Sig Sauer P365. I was carrying H&K VP9s in my last couple of years in law enforcement. I had an SK and a full size. I still have them and still love them, but for size, convenience, shootability, I love the P365. I use, if you're familiar with Keepers Concealment, Spencer Keepers is a good friend of mine. He's based here in the metro area. And I use his Aaron appendix inside the waistband holster that has a clip versus belt loops, because, taking the gun on and off is a lot easier. Then I carry a spare 15-round mag with a Gray Guns in a Gray Guns mag pouch. I carry a flashlight. I'd rather be without my gun than my flashlight. Part of that might be because I'm old. I carry the Streamlight, the Surefire stiletto. We were out at SHOT Show a couple of years ago, and I picked one of these up, and then I carry a pocket knife.
Fantastic. Gary, we really appreciate your time, and we're going to provide some links to CCW Safe below for our readers. And thank you very much for your time. On behalf of Sniper Country, we very much appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.